Fetching video stream. Looks like it's good to go on Facebook. Not quite. Okay, I'm going to hit go live. I think I'm live. It's called Paladin live stream. Hey everybody! Ooh, Aaron, there's Aaron. Aaron is sitting right behind me in my studio. Hey everyone, this is Manny. We're going to be doing a art live stream. Hey Joel. So I don't know if you've checked recently, but we're less than $5,000 away from 1 million, and it's really hard not to say 1 million without some kind of inflection.
You gotta have that pinky out.
You gotta have both my pinkies are out currently. We're at $995,802. So I don't believe. I don't. I mean, maybe if we get real lucky, we could hit it while we're doing the live stream. But I just want to start off by saying this is incredible. I'm going to be really honest and say that I thought we would do maybe $1 million total over the 24 days. So I am definitely the pessimist of the group. And I believed that we would get close to 1 million by the end, which would have been super amazing, and I would have been super pumped by that. But the fact that we are 1 week in, and we are about to cross 1 million, by the time I go to bed tonight, we probably will have crossed 1 million, which is amazing. I don't think in my lifetime I've ever thought to myself, I will make something, and it will make $1 million. I've often thought to myself, I will make something, and then I will give it away for free because no one will buy it. That's typically my mindset. So I'm waiting here just for a moment until about 7, and then we can jump in. Welcome Paul Saxberg and Aaron Waltman and Drake Finney and Dave Algiers. So for any of you joining, I'm guessing most of these 18 or so people so far have been a part of this before, but I'm going to be drawing a piece of art for Dice Throne. Dice Throne, this is specifically for Dice Throne Rerolled. I'm working on the art for the card abilities, the abilities on the board. So I was going to do Righteous Combat tonight for Blake Royal, but I found myself drawn more to the Holy Light image. It felt like it would be a fun piece of art to work on. So you can see off to the right of my screen, that's my Paladin that's the art that will be on the board. So spoilers, that's board art. But that art is... It's what? It's not actually on this board. That's not the art on the board. Aaron said that's the art on the board. It is not the art on his board. The art on his... That art is on the back of his cards in Season 1. But I touched it up, I redid it a little bit, and I adjusted it for the larger board. And now he's literally digging out my copy, and he is wrong. I am right. Aaron is wrong. You can't because there's no camera.
Wait.
There's no camera.
You just said he's behind me.
Well, I'm telling people that you're behind me. This is a radio show.
Oh.
So, what is this? This is radio. Well, it's radio with visuals. Yeah, so Season 2 almost made $1 million. Billy, you're correct. It almost made $1 million Canadian, which we all know is like $4. Right, Joel? Right? Wink, wink. Wink, wink.
Don't forget, somebody keeps posting syrup covered or something.
Yes, syrup, yeah. Actually, Season 2 did about 713,000 US. So we got through that a little while ago. Yeah, 712,999 in US. So anyways, I mean, before I even get started, I just want to express to all you guys how amazing it is that people support this. I mean, I think it can become kind of numbing to think, oh, hi, Angie. I think it can be kind of numbing to be like, well, yes, our game made $1 million, and that's obvious or something. But it's really not. It's not a gimme, right? Just because we made a game doesn't mean it's going to be successful. Doesn't mean people are going to want to play it or latch onto it or follow it. And so I feel like keeping an air of gratitude, a mind that we are lucky to be in this spot and to have this kind of product. To me, that feels really important. So, anyway, so we're going to be drawing a piece of art. This is the Paladin Holy Light art. And I wanted a piece that felt like he was being infused with life and energy. So you can kind of see that this is my pencil roughs that I do before I start actually inking and doing any of the work. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask them. I'm not going to be looking at the Facebook feed as much, but Aaron behind me, sitting behind me, which you cannot see, because this is not live video, he will be asking he'll be like passing me questions or things I can talk about. So here we go. So we're going to jump right in. This live stream will probably last about an hour. Most of my art live streams last about an hour. So here we go. So I've already done the pencil sketching. So next up is inking. And if you haven't been a part of this before, I'm using a program called Clip Studio Paint. Clip Studio Paint is like Photoshop or GIMP or whatever program out there you've used, if you've used any of the art programs. And it is it's personally my favorite drawing program. I really do enjoy working on my iPad, but for these live streams, I kind of need to do them on my computer. So here we go. So we're gonna. So I'm just gonna start inking. I love the inking process. It's probably my favorite part of the, which may come as a surprise since I love the glow and the color so much. But there's something about the inking, seeing the crisp lines, how it all comes together. I just really love the inks. And so one thing to note is this is going to be on the bottom of a card ability on the board. So it's going to be pretty small on the board itself. So I might not put as much into this piece as I would like a full-blown cover or a hero board. So I can hear my dog. He's laying on the floor next to me, enjoying his nice, cool studio in my backyard. So right now I'm just going through, and this is kind of like the first pass, right? I'm basically drawing with my ink lines, and so I'd be interested to hear like any of you guys following along. Maybe you can share a little bit about, you could write or share, how you experienced or like found Dice Throne. I would love to learn a little bit from you guys. Like, how did you come into Dice Throne? How did you learn about it? That'd be kind of cool. Paladin art. So, yeah, my phone is dinging and oh. So dinging, my phone is dinging and buzzing right next to me on the desk. So this is it's really interesting to go back through now and adjust some of the art. You guys have all seen, or probably a bunch of you have seen the Moon Elf. Moon Elf has new art on her board, and that was actually a Gavin Brown suggestion. Gavin saw that piece of art I had made for one of our other abilities, and he was like, "Hey, how about we use this one? This is really cool, and it falls more in line with the sizing and scale that we want on the hero boards." And so that was pretty cool. I definitely saw there was a few people that were not as pumped about that new piece of art, but I really like it. I'm very happy with it as a whole.
That's all. Hero board really shows off the mystical side.
Yeah, Aaron mentioned that the board now, it makes her more of a mage elf or mage archer almost, which I really like. I think that's a really neat feature of the new board. It definitely makes people feel like she's magical. Because when you look at her board and her abilities, she's pretty magical. there's a lot of magic going on.
Casey asks how many drawings you do in a typical week.
Casey, how many drawings do I do in a typical week? It varies. It depends on like how much customer service am I doing, how many meetings am I in. Because sadly, I don't get to just sit and draw. There's a whole bunch of other things, play testing. I've been doing some beta testing for Dice Throne Adventures. I traveled to Man vs. Meeple, so there's a whole bunch of other little things that go on, and I know it's people kind of feel like, well, I can draw pretty fast, so I must do like a ton of art in a week, and that's not always the case because I'm not always able to take the time. I could probably do a lot of art in a week if I sat down and stopped replying to people on Facebook and but I think part of I guess you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there are people who enjoy the fact that we are online and we're talking with people and sharing in the community chat and sharing pictures and art and all that kind of stuff. But of course that comes at a cost. So I don't always I don't draw always as much as I would like to. I would totally be okay if I just sat and all I did all day was draw. But you don't get to do that when you help run a company. It's not like I don't run it by myself, but there's a lot of stuff that goes into it. I think that answered the question. So
some people's stories coming in about how they found us.
Yeah.
Angie found us on the way out of PAX South and stayed and played for a couple of hours.
Oh, I remember that.
Out with season 2, immediately came home and bought season 1.
I actually remember her at that. That was pretty awesome.
Billy back to season 1 because it looked like King of Tokyo, and he has backed everything since.
Nice. You know what's funny, Billy? You are a fan of King of Tokyo, and a little story I can share is that when Nate and I started, we had never played King of Tokyo. We didn't know King of Tokyo was even a thing, and so when we first started, I remember the first person who said, "Oh, yeah, your game feels kind of like King of Tokyo," and we were like, "What's that?" And so they were like, "Well, it's a little game Richard Garfield made." And we were like, "Oh, that Richard Garfield? The man who made Magic?" And then we went and played it, and we were like, "Oh, wow, that's really cool." And so it's kind of funny. My kids and I have been playing King of Tokyo. They kind of go through phases where they play different games over and over. And right now, King of Tokyo is back on the menu. And so, anyways, was a fun tangent.
Joel got recommended it as an item on Amazon.
Joel, you got recommended on Amazon?
Yep.
Wow.
It was a recommended item in his Amazon list because he's been searching for new games.
Wow. That's crazy.
Chris Peterson found it through Dice Tower's Testing Tuesday.
Dice Tower Testing Tuesday. Wow.
He called it Battle Yahtzee, and he had to have it.
Battle Yahtzee. That's so fun. I remember when Tom Vassell did his review of it, and he kind of especially with season 1, he kind of compared it to Yahtzee, or it not being that challenging. And I remember, I'll share this. This is a fun Tom Vassell story. He's never on our community group, so he'll probably never hear this. But I was at Gamma, and he was sitting across from me, and he said, "You know what? I'm really tired of people telling me your game is better than King of Tokyo." And I laughed, and I said back to him, I said, "I love the fact that people tell me my game is better than King of Tokyo." And it was a fun little exchange with Tom Vassell. I wouldn't say we're friends or anything, but it definitely was a fun little interaction. All right, so right now I'm still just inking. So right now there's kind of a symmetrical quality to this drawing, and there's going to be kind of some what am I thinking here? There's as I get out to the edges of this drawing, so if I zoom out a little bit, you're going to see that predominantly the middle chest, head, torso is where we're going to spend most of our time. Once I add the color, you'll see that it'll start to come together a little more, and it'll be a little bit more intentional that way. So let's take a look at our, and because I can, I'm going to mirror something.
Joel says that King of Tokyo, this is so much better than King of Tokyo. 3 subs. So much better than King of Tokyo. King of Tokyo is like Pong. Dice Throne is like tennis.
So King of Tokyo is like Pong, and this is like tennis. I have heard that. I've heard definitely people say that they like Dice Throne better, and I'll be totally honest. I like Dice Throne better too. But I will say in defense, I don't know that King of Tokyo doesn't need me defending them. They probably outsell us 10-1. But I noticed that when I bring my casual friends over who predominantly play Uno and Phase 10, these people will actually play King of Tokyo, but they won't play Dice Throne. And there's a substantial difference in that mindset between the two. Dice Throne has just too much strategy for the person that is coming from a super casual place. Now, and so I think it's interesting because I definitely feel like that they each have their place in that regard. But I prefer Dice Throne. Way. Yeah, I did help make the game, so that kind of matters, you know. So right now I'm just working through the armor on the arm. I forget who it was. There was a person asking if I would draw armor on one of my live streams, and I totally forgot who it was. Sorry. There was a person who had asked about it, so it all of a sudden kind of dawned on me that, oh hey, I'm drawing armor. So, anyways, this is partly for that person who asked if I would draw some armor on a live stream. Sorry, it's actually not specifically, but we can pretend it is because it's more fun to be like, see, and I did remember, but I just hadn't got back to this. So now you'll see I made an arm and a shoulder pad. So what I'm going to do now is, because I want it to mirror, I'm just going to copy and paste it over. And then flip it. And then I can just add it in, and I'll probably rotate it just a little bit to throw off the symmetry just a touch. So,
Casey asked the all-important drawing when you're drawing on budget.
What am I drawing with?
What are you drawing on? Yeah, are you using a drawing tablet for this?
Yes, I am. So I am using a Wacom Cintiq and a Wacom pen. So I'm drawing right on my monitor and just using my basic desktop PC. So what I did here is I just copied it over, since I knew that he kind of has that a little bit of the, crucifixion pose going on here. The sun decided to shine right through the branches into my eyeballs through the window.
Drake asked, which armor do you prefer drawing? The Paladins or the Samurai? The Paladin or the Samurai?
Ooh, what armor do I prefer drawing, Paladin or Samurai? I have to go Samurai. And that's just a I learned a term this week.
It's not a positive term.
It's not a positive term. It's related to people who really love Japanese animation or Japanese style art. And I definitely fall into that category of people who love Japanese theme, Japanese style art and design. So anytime I can, like if I could make an entire Asian themed Dice Throne where it was all, that's why there's an Onibaba in the Minions. There's some, I would have Oni monsters and all kinds of stuff in there if I could do it. So anyway, so here I just kind of flipped, and it saved me a little bit of time to add the other arm. And since the arms are not important, the silhouette is really the important part. So you'll see when as I start to pull the piece together in the end why the as you get out further to the edges, it becomes less important. And that is maybe the wrong words to use, but it'll make more sense in a minute. So, and then we got his sweet rooster head, tail, plume. What are these called on the top of a helmet? Is there a term for them?
I'm Googling right now. I don't actually know.
Oh, I thought for sure Aaron would know this.
I should know this.
So then we gotta have his big, huge, like, cape, his Batman-style cape flowing in the breeze. And comic book artists are right, drawing capes is one of the most fun things you can do when you're drawing, because there's so much wind and breeze and power in a cape. Okay, so we are now officially done with the inks, so I deleted the pencil lines underneath. And this is kind of why I don't really have any kind of... So this is going to be pretty small. He's going to probably be about that big on a card. So it's going to be... there's not a ton of information. So anyway, so now comes the flatting or coloring. Will future hero releases include a minifigure or play token for the campaign? Mark, yes, we would hope that all future heroes we create, that we would release a miniature that would coincide with Dice Throne Adventures. Now, that's our goal. Will that for sure happen? We actually don't know. We have dreams and visions for things, but there's probably too many variables to be like, yes, we guarantee that we will always make miniatures. Because starting out right now, we just have to get to the point where we can manufacture these, and that do people want them? Definitely, it seems like a large percentage of the fan base does like the miniatures and does want them. So that's good. But Dice Throne is not a miniatures game, so I think it is important for us to be aware that we don't know for sure if that part will work long term. Anyways, okay. Now I'm doing the flatting. So this is just the core, this is basically the coloring book phase. So if you imagine if I had made a Dice Throne coloring book, right now all I'm doing is coloring. And yes, it would be super fun to have a Dice Throne coloring book. And maybe someday. So basically right now, this is all just the tool that I use within Clip Studio allows me a certain amount of freedom to... I just kind of drag my cursor across these areas, and then it fills in underneath the lines. So it's like super fast coloring book land, where I get to just drag my mouse around and click, and then it smart fills underneath. So some might call that cheating.
Carol
But
says her son is inspired to paint them his own barbarian tomorrow.
oh, awesome!
I'm watching you.
Someone's gonna who said that?
Carol Johnson.
Carol, that's super cool. Please share that with me if he feels so inclined. I would love to see any art that's made. That would be amazing. It's super cool when people share that kind of stuff. Total side note, but growing up, no one would ever draw me pictures because they would feel intimidated. And my wife, she very early on, she would draw me cards, and it was one of the things that was most endearing to me is that she would told me later, she was like, yes, I was intimidated by you as an artist, but I figured you would like a card, so I made you one. And so it was, she was the only person, other than like family members, to ever draw me cards, card art, stuff like that. So, nice little romantic story about my wife.
Blake has joined, but Blake is hype.
Blake is hype.
Come see at Big Brother.
Blake. So I do want to lift up and kind of praise a handful of gentlemen who have been helping us during this Kickstarter. Blake is one of them, and there's a handful of guys who have been helping us manage comments and posts on Facebook, on Board Game Geek, on Kickstarter, messages, all these things. And Aaron Hine, who's sitting behind me, he's one of those guys who has. I mean, these guys are sacrificing their lives and time to help us answer questions and help meet the growing demand for information about Dice Throne and Dice Throne Adventures. So I know Aaron Waltman and Drake and Rick and Jonathan Herrera Thomas, or Jonathan HT, which apparently I found out today that English is his second language. It's that, or he was joking. I'm not actually sure if he was joking, so if he... Yes, that would be a bad joke. So I hope it wasn't a joke, and maybe I'm calling him out as if he was joking. Uh-oh, did I just call out? No. Yes, Aaron has sacrificed much in order to help Dice Throne, the community, the Dice Roys. He was the person who was there. So a fun little story about Aaron is the game started in August of 2016. And less than 2 weeks after we had made the first version of Dice Throne, Aaron was one of the first 2 playtesters at a local store in Spokane called Gamers Haven. And it's kind of fun that we look back on that, and it's now been, it'll be 3 years since Nate and I were in his kitchen, and we were like, maybe we should just make a board game. And then we did. So it feels like forever, and last night, like, literally feels like it could have been 10 years ago at this point. But things have been moving so fast, and even guys like Blake and Jonathan, we have known them now for years, from conventions, meeting them at conventions for the first time, or as Kickstarter backers, and it's pretty amazing, like the community that has grown because of Dice Throne. And oops, that's the wrong one.
Jonathan is from Kansas, so
well, his last name is Herrera. So I think he is actually. So now I'm just digging a hole for myself. I'm sorry, Jonathan. So Aaron couldn't leave well enough alone.
I'm sorry.
And I am a goofball for even bringing it up in the first place. So my apologies. Yes, we will learn eventually. Jonathan's amazing. We love having him involved in our stuff and our game. Oh, and the man sends barbecue sauce occasionally, which is amazing.
Drake said we should make shirts that say, maybe we should just make a board game.
Maybe we should just make a board game, yes.
As on the shirt.
Maybe we should just make a board game.
Logo.
Yes, maybe we should just make one. I'm just gonna, that's the new live stream. That's this right here. This is gonna be art for that. No. No. Nope. Nope. All right, so we're getting there here. Let's. So the flatting is mostly done. We need to adjust a few things, but other than that, we're getting real close to being able to add shadows. And then that gets us even closer to the stage that is probably second most fun, which is the glow it up stage. And glowing things up is, boy, if inking wasn't my favorite, I'm not sure. Like, it's glowing stuff up is pretty hot. I distinctly remember one of my old comic book partners telling me that I added too much glow. And I said, I actually believe you're incorrect. I believe I have added the right amount. In all situations, the right amount is used. Arguably, when I look back on the work at that time, I think he was probably right, actually. But we're going to pretend he wasn't right and be like, no, I stuck to my guns. In fact, the truth is I just got better. I learned how to become a better artist over time. So, and use the glow. I learned how to wield it with great power because great glow responsibility. Is that what's happening?
Great glow.
With great glow.
Great responsibility.
Yes.
Carol says that her son loves your videos and the dice run is much better than King of Joker.
Thank you for sharing that, Carol. So Aaron's reading it to me. That's why probably all of a sudden I laugh because you guys can't hear him in the background. You probably can't.
Or can they?
Oh, well, they might be able to if you yell louder. All right, so now we're going to add some shadows. So we're at the stage now where we've just done the coloring book part, and yay, coloring books. Now we're going to jump into shadows. So what's going to happen here is the middle of his body is going to glow. So I'm going to create like a big old glowy heart, and it will end up being right over the top of his chest because he's being infused with life. So I want to, and this is where there was a backer on Kickstarter that asked a question, or he brought up an issue of like one of my pieces of art. And I'm going to talk about it briefly because I think it's an interesting thing within the world of art. Is there's reality, and then there's illustration and art. Now, I can try to illustrate and make things real life, but honestly, I don't make comic books so that I can make real life. If I wanted to make real life stuff, I would paint still lifes, and I would do stuff like that. And the truth is what I want to do is I want to paint fantastical stuff. I want to have lighting and shadows and crazy stuff that is completely abnormal and doesn't exist in the real world. And so, yeah, you know what? Sometimes I take liberties with the lighting and with the shadows and the art, and I'm okay with that. I think it can work. I think sometimes art falls apart when you do that, and you have to learn when you can and when you can't do it. But I think I've done pretty well with most of the art in terms of being able to create mythical lighting scenarios or unique ways to light the work. So I don't mind. Some people might not be a fan of that, and I think that that's okay. So in this case, we're going to say that there's a light kind of on his chest, and that light is going to emanate up over his body. It's going to create a unique lighting scenario. But there's also going to be light behind him, because there needs to be like sweet, glowy, sunsetty things, or other glow-tastic things. If you've never followed one of my live streams, then you will quickly learn that to glow things is it's a great joy of mine. Glow is king, yes.
Joel asks if you remember any broken or OP aspects of the original Paladin's prototype when we were building it.
Is there any broken or OP aspects to the Paladin when we first created him? Or, yeah, the Paladin. Well, obviously, I mean, heroes were never perfect when we first started. I mean, to say that would be foolish, because there's always iterations and always. One of the things, obviously, you'll notice on crit, his crit ability, it says when you deal at least 4 damage. Or, no, 6 damage, right? Because it adds 4 damage. So, originally, he could crit his Mighty Blow, I believe. Or, was it Mighty Blow?
It is Mighty Prayer.
Mighty Prayer, the 3 undefendable? Yes.
You used to go crit, and 8 undefendable consistently?
Yes. So you used to be able to just crit over and over. Now, granted, I'm sharing things. It's like, here's one of the first iterations of a hero, and right.
Day 1, it had a problem.
Yeah,
Day
I mean,
2, it didn't have that problem.
yeah. The truth is all heroes are effectively broken when you first built them. And in our opinion, or my opinion, if the hero isn't broken right away, then you probably need to restart. Because as you unbreak your heroes, you're going to bring them into balance. So, my perspective is I like the idea of breaking it first and then allowing it to bring it back in. Because if you start too low, or you start like with the idea that, well, it needs to be perfectly balanced to start, and so you guess low on your numbers, you potentially undersell your product. You undersell like the power or how cool things are. Because a game like this is all about sweet moves. I mean, it's kind of like a video game that way, where like you want to do sweet moves, you want to do your ultimate ability, you want to like crush things and make it awesome. And if you don't do that, like what's the point? Why are you doing it?
The top right epaulets on this cape holder router thing,
Uh huh.
the shading is first line.
What are we talking about?
This is a me question. Okay, selfish. If you go back to center, the left top ones are on the low, and on the right they're on the top.
Like right here?
Above. Oh, I guess I can't see. Right where.
Yeah. All right.
Right below his collar, the part that's holding his cape down. The right side is different than the left side of the shading. Is there your work with shading always been very interesting. When you cut out the trees for
Yes.
the tray, I like lost my mind.
Yeah.
And so I was, why are those different? And that's because you were going back in to do more of it.
Yeah.
So ultimately, it's because
Aaron is questioning the sauce at the moment. Yeah.
never question the sauce.
No, and I think that it's. I think what's interesting about Aaron's question just now, or his observation,
I figured you did it for a reason.
is that I mean there isn't necessarily a reason, because everything is very free flowing. Like I don't know if it's totally obvious in the live stream itself, but there's a whole lot of Bob Ross in this, where I'm like, you know what would look really nice right here? A shadow line. You know what would look really sweet right here? How about a little bit more shadow? And right here be some nice shadow. Oh, this is a nice shadow shape. Oh, I like this shadows. Or when I go to do the highlights, I'll add highlights and all kinds of stuff based on how it feels in the moment. And so to say that there is an actual plan in the art is maybe giving a little bit too much credit for like the process, because a lot of it is very, very free flowing. So
Joseph, thank you for sharing that crit. That's really cool. Do we have any other obvious refinement things from the early days?
let's see. Obvious refinement. This is probably my favorite broken garbage from the early days. The Moon Elf's defense prevented all damage.
Ah! Yep.
So if you couldn't hear Aaron in the background laughing at that, I will say that didn't last very long. That's for sure. She her 2 feet. Oh man, that was some rough stuff when she prevented all damage. So yes, that was great. So there's all those little things, right? And we do our best. We try to catch them. But you know, you think about games like Magic and Pokemon or whatever. Like these games are not perfectly balanced in the end. They're games. They're living games that ebb and flow. And Dice Throne has similar aspects to that. There are similarities to that type of game where Dice Throne's going to have to ebb and flow a little bit over time, because we're not perfect game designers, and so we will definitely do our best, and then just go from there, really.
Paladins get their power from some kind of higher godly being of sorts. Do we know where specifically the Paladin gets his power, and is there any connection to the Seraph?
So, is the Paladin's power specific?
Ryan Hubbard's question.
Ryan, sorry, what?
Ryan Hubbard.
Ryan. Okay. So, the Paladin's ability and power. So, I mean, the Paladin very much falls into the trope. I mean, he is a Paladin. He is a righteous warrior. He serves God or a god or whatever. And the Seraph is definitely, I don't want to say a step above him, but definitely a step mightier, holier in that chain. The Paladin is still very much a human, whereas the Seraph has otherworldliness to her. I think that is fair to say. So let's see here. We got. I need to sample some colors from a different piece of art. So we're gonna. And this becomes a tinting layer. So what I want to do is, so imagine I'd like turned on the light, but I wanted to make sure it was a blue light. So that's, now there's a blue light, but of course the Paladin has golden aspects to his armor. So we want to make sure that the light is nice and is golden along that, all the little shiny gold bits at his face. Sorry, I just muted myself because I was coughing. Get a drink of water. Okay. So then we add kind of, we want to make sure the gold of his armor pops as well. And then same with like the red. His robes and his hair and stuff like that shouldn't lose that nice crimson-y, that nice deep crimson red.
It's so crazy that Tint Layer, what it does to the flat colors.
Yeah, yeah.
It made it so much brighter.
Yep. So yeah, the tint layer does a lot of work. It's
Just works as this part of there when you do the Tint Layer looks like magic.
yeah. So there's, I mean, obviously there's.
The Tint Layer right now?
No, I'm not.
What are you doing?
I am selecting the blues because the blue of his armor is slightly off. It's a.
Like you wanted it over his, like you wanted it over his plume,
So.
and it turned more red.
Oh, that's because I tinted. Oh, right. You're seeing it on the screen, aren't you?
10 seconds late.
Yeah, yeah. So there's a delayed response. So.
Sorry.
So.
Right now, 10 seconds ago. What were you doing?
So that was, I was adjusting the tint layer to have golden elements.
Like in the image on the right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you can see on this right, there's a blue and orangey, halo-y cloud-looking thing. So that thing that's the tint layer.
When you finish the Tint Layer, can you hide up the other layers so you can just see the Tint Layer?
Sure. So let's so I'll show you this. This is what the tint layer looks like. And let's I'll step you through the process here. So we have this is so far the background, and then I'm going to have some like light rays. And then we got our flat colors, the shadows, then there's the line art, and you'll see that the color of his body and armor and all that kind of stuff is, it needed to be grayer in its core, because when you add things like the blue light of the environment, like this, then it starts to cause everything to kind of gel together. So then, the other thing we want to do is, I want you to focus more. Let's see here. That's the wrong one. Let's see. Overlay. There we go. So I want the eye to be drawn to the middle, because this is holy light. So he is healing himself. He is basically concentrating real hard and healing his body. So then we got, let's see here. So either, there we go. That's better. Okay. So I want the background to get pushed back just a little bit, so that his body and up front is going to become a little bit more centrally focused. And because I want to push even a little bit harder to get it for you to look at the center of his body, I'm going to add another layer of shadow in here. And this layer is going to go around the outer edge of him, because he is going to be glowing it up hardcore right in the middle. So this is where it gets into again, there's that Bob Rossian aspect of it, where I don't know what's about to happen. I just know that I'm about to paint and do some stuff. So I can't necessarily say that I know exactly what's about to transpire. And there are lots of happy accidents. People sometimes joke about this feeling Bob Ross-like, these live streams. And that's because there is quite literally that.
Also, your manners and the way you explain the art,
Right.
you interact.
Right.
Also vary.
Right. There are more reasons for the comparison.
Because most of us don't realize that you have no idea what you're doing.
Yeah, that's true. And most people probably don't share. But Bob Ross was very honest about the fact that he was exploring. And I think that was important, right? That was important to his process. And I think it's important here as well. I feel like that's just I'm not afraid of the fact that there are errors or that there are things that have to. And actually, let's not do that. Let's actually use the heart symbol from the Paladin. What do you say? That way, it draws even a stronger parallel to the Holy Light ability. See? And this heart is the same as the Barbarian's heart. So, we're going to add this. It only makes sense to do this. But yeah, the happy accident nature of any kind of art production is super fun. I really enjoy it. I know not every artist likes it or likes to show people the happy accidents, but I think I feel like there's no shame in it. There's no shame in the realization that, you don't have to know the answers. Maybe some people feel like they should have the answers anytime they're about to do something, or I know some people don't like to show the process. I have met artists who are a little bit afraid of letting people see their process because they don't want someone to steal it. They don't want people to take their ability to do work, their ability to do. So right now I'm just adding. I want this heart. I want light to infuse the heart.
Blake wants to know what his plume is made of. Is it hair? Is it cloth? Is it something else?
So what is his plume made of? Oh, it's like a massive mane of hair that is probably controlled by the god. Because otherwise it would be in his face all the time. So, all right, let's. So the other thing I'm missing is a highlight layer on the actual hero himself. So we're gonna add some highlights into like his beard, underside of his nose to reflect the light.
Is the heart another layer?
Yes, the heart.
The streams are another layer.
Yes, the heart and the streams are on the same layer currently.
That's right. That's because as you cut through the shadow, right, especially up by his hair.
Yes.
It looked like you were almost removing the previous layer.
Right. No, it's all just layered on top. So right now we're just kind of.
All of your layers semi-transparent?
No, the layers are not semi-transparent.
See the pencil lines from his hair through the ribbons of the heart.
Because the light layer on top. So Aaron's asking why you can see parts of it through the others and why you can't see some stuff. As it's because the glow layer is effectively an additive layer, and so all paint on that layer or art on that layer tries to brighten whatever is underneath it. And so there's a unique interaction in how the colors mix through light. Obviously, because of monitors and color stuff like this, that you can use techniques like additive blending, and which is maybe all a little bit more complex than most people care about. But there are fun ways to manipulate the colors that cause them to blend well together. So we're getting real close to being done with this piece.
Are we ever going to release issue 1 digitally?
Are we going to release issue 1, the comic book, digitally? Well, issue 1, you mean with Charlie?
Charlie.
That's a great question. We probably should, or we should, because right now no one can get it, and you can't even.
It's not available.
It's not available anywhere. So I guess the question is should it be like available in the backer kit for Kickstarter or something like that? And the answer is probably yes, it should be. So we'll talk about that and see what we want to do with it. The problem, I don't know if it's even a problem, but the issue with the issue one is that issue is kind of it's issue one, so it's the beginning of a story, and the truth is I'm probably never going to finish it. It'll probably never get told in completion, and it's kind of a bummer that that's the case. But there are definitely people that are excited about the idea of learning more about the lore and the comic and that kind of stuff. But they're honestly they are currently a minority in the community. There's just not very many people that want that.
And agrees that we should release issue. I'm assuming 1. He said 0, but I'm gonna assume that's a typo.
Well, issue 0 is already out.
Right,
You can.
So it'd be weird for Nate to say, "I agree, we should release issue 0." digitally.
Oh, is he's in?
He's
Sweet.
in the chat.
Awesome. Hey, Nate. Yeah, definitely. I don't think there's a reason we shouldn't, but we haven't really talked about it, so I didn't want to say yay or nay. Yay or Nate.
It was a good pun. It was a good pun.
Yes. It's fantastic.
Nerdhouse asks if you have considered Patreon for the comic production.
I have not considered Patreon.
Digitally over time.
I have not considered Patreon. I probably should consider some of these things. One of the things I've noticed, though, or that I'm running into, is that their Dice Throne is a small team. And I think even though we've had a lot of success and we continue to have a lot of success, the game currently takes precedent over things like making a comic book. And so, as much as I want to make the comic book and tell stories, I think that's not fair, but the vast majority of people want more content for the game. So I kind of have to pick my battles. Where do I help? Do I work on comic book stuff? Do I work on the board game stuff or the tabletop game stuff? Maybe in some future world where we have a larger staff of people and we can afford me to take time away to work on comic books, maybe we can do it then. So I have in my mind, I'm like, I really want to do like an anthology series that follows different heroes where you get to meet and learn about the different heroes. But again, that's kind of a pie in the sky at the moment because we don't have the bandwidth to do it. And I would hope someday we could. It would be really nice. When people read the comics, they sure seem to enjoy it. So hopefully we're going to get there. So here we go. There you go, everyone. That is the card art that will be on Holy Light, the ability and on the Paladin's board. So we're in at about 7:50, so it took just a little under an hour. But I think that's probably good for tonight. Let's. I'm going to check Dice Throne Adventures Kickstarter page because it's been 50 minutes, and it's 996.4. So we're creeping along. Again, just wanted to say thank you so much, everybody, for all the support. Dice Throne Adventure, I think, is definitely it's a challenging, fun game that I think people are going to really enjoy. I hope that you guys are enjoying the teasers or the previews. I know Nate and I would love to play another session sometime before we end the campaign so people can see another example. And I bet there's people hoping we get our butts kicked. That'll be good. Someone's rapid firing hearts. But anyways, I think we're good to go. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. I'll try to come back through if there's any questions in the comments later this evening. Again, thank you for sharing Dice Throne with us. Talk to you later.
caught all of it. There's nothing extra. There's nothing